Hello everyone, welcome to Edukemy's Gear Up for Prelims program. तो इस पूरी सीरीज का आइडिया ये है कि हम आपको कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स प्रिपेयर करा रहे हैं which can help you fetch some extra marks in upcoming prelims examination. तो बहुत ही कम ड्यूरेशन में इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स आपके साथ कवर किए जाएंगे. दैट इज वाई वीडियो को पूरा देखिए. इसके साथ साथ वीडियो में जो डॉक्यूमेंट अटैच्ड है whereby we give you some important notes and also some important questions and some news articles related to the topic discussed. तो उसे पढ़िए and make sure that your preparation for prelims is rock strong. So let's get started. Topic that we are taking up today is 5th and 6th schedule. This is important because there are more than 700 scheduled tribes in India and they occupy close to 8.5% population of the country. So definitely from this perspective, it is important to understand these two schedules. Also अगर आप previous years question देखें तो हर साल इन दो schedule से अलग अलग तरीके के questions आए हैं. So there have been questions on what states are included in these schedules, what are the provisions of these schedule, which schedule deals with which states, etc. So it becomes very important to understand all the nuances of 5th and 6th schedule. अब सबसे पहले ये समझिए कि 5th और 6th schedule दोनों आए क्यों. So if you look at the tribal population of our country, they have some specific needs. There are certain traditions, customs, way of life that they adhere to. And if we go about giving them the same sort of governance that we give to other people of the country, that won't be quite fair because their needs, their requirements are different, they're special. Considering this perspective, there were two schedules added to the Indian Constitution, that is the 5th and the 6th schedule, with the idea to provide administrative structures to the tribal population of our country. Now, the next question that comes up is 5th और 6th schedule में difference क्या है? अब यहाँ पर ये समझिएगा that 6th schedule caters to some specific states and all the states which are not covered in the 6th schedule are taken up in the 5th schedule. So what are the states in 6th schedule? There is a very easy mnemonic to memorize it, and that is ATM machine. That is Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya, Mizoram. So what you can remember is that in these 4 states there was an ATM machine and the 6th schedule people said that we'll not be using it. So you can connect it in your head. 6th schedule बोलते याद आ जाएगा ATM machine, and that's how you can remember the 4 states, that is Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram. Now coming back to what is 5th schedule then. Now remember, all the tribal areas except for the one that have been covered in the 6th schedule would be covered in the 5th schedule. And so there are 10 states which are part of the 5th schedule of the Indian Constitution. We'll use a mnemonic to remember 5th schedule state as well. Now I'll give you a very simple mnemonic to memorize the states in 5th schedule. Repeat after me. Mr. Jog had a match in 5th scheduled areas. Now your keywords would be Mr., Jog and match. Now look at this. M would be for Maharashtra, R would be for Rajasthan. Remember Jog. J would be for Jharkhand, O would be for Odisha, G for Gujarat, and the third keyword was match. So M would be for Madhya Pradesh, A for Andhra Pradesh, T for Telangana, C for Chhattisgarh and H for Himachal Pradesh. So now you remember that 5th schedule has 10 states and 6th schedule has 4 states. This way you can memorize these states. Now remember, how is the administration of 5th and 6th schedule different? So in the 5th schedule area, the primary power of administration has been given to the governor. So governor plays a very pivotal role in the management of these areas with regards to 5th schedule. But when we talk about 6th schedule, the focus is giving the governance structure in the hands of the people. So there is further decentralization when you talk about the 6th schedule of the Constitution. Now let us go into some of the administrative details. But before that, remember that all these provisions you find in part 10th of the Constitution, and this is the part where you find mention about scheduled areas and their administration. But before that, please remember that it is part 10th of the Constitution that deals with scheduled tribes and scheduled areas. If they ask you the articles, remember it is Article 244 and 244A. Now let us understand some features of 5th schedule of the Constitution. First is, it is the President who declares any area as a scheduled area. He or she also is responsible for increasing the boundary of the scheduled area or decrease it or alter it. All this is done by the President, but in consultation with the governor of that state. Now, another question that comes up is, can the center give directions to the state with regards to certain provisions? So yes, center has the power to give directions to the state as to how they should manage and control the 5th scheduled areas. Now about the executive powers of the center. So center has this power to give directions to the state with regards to administration of the areas which fall under the 5th schedule of the Constitution. Now also remember, governor has a very special responsibility. So the governor has to submit a report regarding the administration of these areas to the president. Now this has to be either submitted annually, or if the president so asks for it, it can even be given before that. The governor also has a very special responsibility, and that is to submit a report to the president about the administration of these areas under the 5th schedule. Now either it has to be submitted annually or as required by the President of India. Here is a very important part where you see questions in your prelims. So every state which has a scheduled area under the 5th schedule of the Constitution has to establish a TAC. What is TAC? Tribal Advisory Council. जिसका primary काम होता है to give suggestions for the welfare and advancement of scheduled tribes in that particular area. अब याद रखिएगा, इस ट्राइबल एडवाइजरी काउंसिल में टोटल मेंबर्स 20 होते हैं, आउट ऑफ विच 3/4 would be the ones who are representing scheduled tribes in that state legislative assembly. So 20 and 3/4, these are the figures that you need to remember. Now let's say this number 3/4 is larger than the representatives of the scheduled tribe in the state legislative assembly. Then in that case, the remaining seats will be filled by the members of the scheduled tribes of that area. Now remember why at all had we brought about the 5th schedule and the 6th schedule? To ensure that the administration of these areas is done according to the customs, traditions, to the way of life of the tribal population. So let's say there is a law that has been framed by the central legislature or by the state legislature, then there is a very important aspect that says that the governor may declare that so and so act of the parliament or of the state legislative assembly will not apply to this scheduled area. Now also the governor might decide that it will apply but with certain modifications, or there would be certain exceptions. Again, all this is done, remember, to protect the customs, the traditions and the identity of the tribal population. Now if the governor wants, he or she may also come up with certain regulations. Now regulations to ensure that there is peace in the scheduled area, and these regulations will come up in consultation with the Tribal Advisory Council. Remember, we discussed the Tribal Advisory Council just a few minutes ago. So what can be these regulations like? They might be related to allotment of land, or restriction on transfer of land, or complete prohibition on transfer of land, or regulation of money lending activities to the scheduled tribes. All this can be done by the governor through a regulation in consultation with the Tribal Advisory Council. Let's say there is an act of the parliament or an act of the state which is already applicable in a scheduled area, but now the governor thinks that it should either be amended or be repealed. Can the governor do that? Yes. There is a provision that says that the governor can repeal or amend such an act which is already applicable in the scheduled area. But remember, for this, presidential assent is required. Also remember that the Constitution requires the president to appoint a commission which will be responsible for studying whether the welfare and advancement of the scheduled tribes in these scheduled areas is satisfactory or not. This commission will have to submit its report to the President of India. Now let us come to the 6th schedule. Remember the 4 states? ATM machine, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram. So what happens is the scheduled areas in these 4 states are declared as autonomous districts. So now you look at the gravity of the situation. These areas are declared as autonomous districts, although yes, the state administration does have a role to play in these districts, but definitely they have more authority than other districts of the country. Remember, it is the prerogative of the governor to organize and to reorganize these districts. And in fact, if the governor so thinks, then these districts can be further divided considering there are more scheduled tribes in that area. Now I hope आपको याद होगा 5th schedule में हमने डिस्कस किया था about TAC. 6th schedule में हमें याद रखना है about autonomous district council. So each of these autonomous districts will have an autonomous district council. And how many members would be there? There would be a total of 30 members. 4 of them will be nominated by the governor and 26 of them would be elected. Now the elected ones will hold office for a period of 5 years and the nominated ones will be on the pleasure of the president. Each of these regions a regional council. Now you might ask, what is the purpose of this district council or regional council? Remember, these autonomous district council and regional council can come up with laws on certain matters, let's say land or property or marriage, and all this has to be done with the consent of the governor. Also remember, these councils can also establish court of trial, whereby there can be trials with regards to tribal disputes. If we talk about powers, these councils can levy taxes, they can collect revenue. Remember, the central and the state laws may not apply to these districts, or they might apply with certain modifications or certain amendments to again suit the need of these areas. Remember, the governor also has a very important power, that is, he or she can appoint a commission to examine the working of these areas and to report the same to the governor. So this was all about the 5th and the 6th schedule. Remember the states, remember the special provisions, remember about Tribal Advisory Council, Autonomous District Council, and you are good to go. Remember the 2 mnemonics that we discussed, Mr. Jog had a match in 5th schedule areas and ATM machine. And trust me, with this you'll be able to answer most of the questions from this topic. Abhi, आपको बता दें that Edukemy comes up with a prelims support program, which is a very unique initiative, which is not just a test series, but is kind of a hand holding for you aspirants so that your prelims journey becomes rock strong. So watch out this space for that, enroll for that program, and make sure that you give your best shot in prelims 2024. All the best.